The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their twisted branches clawing at the overcast sky. The whispering woods stretched endlessly in every direction, swallowing the five hikers as they pushed deeper into its heart. A damp chill clung to the air, heavy with the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves. "No signal," Jake muttered, lowering his phone. His voice was the only sound besides the crunch of boots on the damp soil. "Figures," Sarah replied, adjusting the straps of her backpack. "This place hasn't been mapped properly in decades." Ahead of them, Mark, always the adventurous one, halted, staring at something half hidden beneath the overgrowth. "Guys, look." He knelt, brushing away a thick layer of leaves, revealing a narrow, unmarked trail, its path winding into the gloom. The dirt was compact, untouched by human footprints. "This isn't on the map," Emily said, stepping closer. "But it looks well used." "We should turn back," Nathan mumbled, glancing over his shoulder. The trees behind them felt closer than before, though he swore they had been farther apart when they entered the woods. But Mark was already stepping onto the path, his boots sinking slightly into the moist earth. "Come on, what's an adventure without a little mystery?" One by one they followed. The deeper they went, the quieter the forest became. No birds, no insects, just silence. Then a whisper, soft, foreign, slipping through the trees like a breath against the skin. Jake froze. "Did you hear that?" Sarah shivered. It sounded like talking, but the words were unintelligible, ancient, guttural, layered with an eerie resonance, as if spoken not by one voice, but many. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Mark forced a laugh. Probably just the wind. But there was no wind. The whisper came again. Closer. This time, Nathan was gone. "Where's Nathan?" Emily's voice cracked as she spun around. He had been right behind her. Now only his footprints remained, vanishing abruptly in the middle of the trail. Panic surged through the group. "Nathan," Sarah called out. The only answer was the whisper, threading through the air like invisible fingers curling around them. Mark grabbed Jake's arm. "We need to keep moving." Maybe he just... Another whisper. Another body gone. Emily vanished mid-step, her frightened gasp cut off as if it had been swallowed by the woods itself. Her footprints, like Nathan's, ended abruptly. No struggle. No sign of where she went. Jake cursed, his breath ragged. What the hell is happening? The whispers came again, louder now, weaving their way into his skull, curling around his thoughts like ivy, calling his name. Then the forest shifted. The trail, once straight, was different now, looping back on itself in a way that made no sense. The trees, dense and gnarled, formed a cage around them. Sarah stumbled back. No, this isn't right." Mark turned in frantic circles. Where did the path go? We didn't walk in a circle. The realization hit Jake like ice in his veins. "They're leading us." Sarah's scream sliced through the air. Jake whipped around. She was gone. Only 2 sets of footprints remained. Heart pounding, Jake sprinted ahead, dragging Mark with him. The whispers slithered around them, mocking, pleading, calling. Then a shape in the undergrowth. A leather-bound journal, half buried in the dirt, its pages yellowed and damp. Jake snatched it up, flipping through scrawled entries, desperate, frantic handwriting. Do not follow the voices. They take you one by one. The last one always sees the truth. Mark's breath came in sharp gasps. What does it mean? Jake turned to answer. Mark was gone, his footprints ending mid-stride. A low, creeping dread settled into Jake's bones. He was the last one. The forest pulsed around him, shifting, reshaping. The trees watching, the whispers waiting. He tightened his grip on the journal. I won't listen to you. The voices laughed. Jake turned, trying to find a way out. His boots pressed into the soft earth, leaving deep prints. He ran, following the path back the way they came, until he saw them. His own footprints. They led in a perfect circle. The whispers swelled, overlapping, suffocating, endless. The last entry in the journal burned in his mind. The last one always sees the truth. Jake looked up. A wall of darkness rushed toward him, silent, hungry, and then nothing. By morning, the forest was still again. A fresh layer of leaves covered the ground. No footprints remained, and the unmarked trail waited for its next travelers. The town of Hollow Brook had many legends, but none as feared as the Watcher. Every night, as the clock struck 12, the fog arrived, thick and unnatural, rolling in from the depths of the Whispering Woods. And with it he came. A shadow, presence, curse. Locals spoke in hushed voices, warning of those who had seen the Watcher. First, they would hear whispers in the night. Then they would vanish, leaving behind no trace, no struggle, just a gone. Emma Carter didn't believe in curses. She was a journalist, a woman of facts, not folklore. And tonight, she was going to prove the Watcher was nothing more than a town-wide superstition. She set up her camera and voice recorder at the edge of the woods, checking the time. 11:57 p.m. The fog was coming. At first, it was subtle, a mist slithering between the trees, coiling around the trunks like ghostly fingers. Then, within seconds, it thickened into a wall of pale gray, swallowing the forest whole. Emma shivered and flipped on her recorder. This is Emma Carter, live in Whispering Woods. Midnight has arrived, and so has the infamous fog. Locals claim a shadow appears within it, a figure known as the Watcher. She paused, listening. So far, nothing unusual. The silence was suffocating. No crickets. No rustling leaves. Not even the wind. Just silence. Then, a whisper. Soft, barely audible. Emma's pulse quickened. She lifted the recorder closer to her mouth. I just heard something. Possible wind distortion or distant voices from town. But the whisper didn't sound distant. It sounded close. The fog shifted. Shapes formed and dissolved, moving unnaturally. Then a figure. Tall. Too tall. Standing just beyond the tree line. Emma's breath hitched. She squinted through the mist. No details. No face. Just a towering shadow watching. She lifted her camera. Click. The figure didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. A chill ran down her spine. Every instinct screamed run. She swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. Who's there? The whisper returned, closer now. Not wind. not distortion. Her name, Emma. She stumbled back, dropping her recorder. It landed with a soft thud, red light still blinking. The fog thickened. The figure stepped forward, and then darkness. The sun rose over Hollow Brook, burning away the mist. Birds chirped. Life returned. At the edge of the forest, a group of locals found her equipment. Her camera was untouched. No photos of the watcher remained. But the recorder, still on, still playing. A faint whisper crackled through the speaker. "You saw me." Then silence. Emma Carter was never seen again. But at midnight, when the fog returned, some swore they could hear her voice, whispering from the woods, calling for help, calling for them. The hollow oak stood alone in the deepest part of the whispering woods, its gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers against the moonlit sky. It was ancient. Its trunk split open into a dark, gaping hollow, wide enough for a person to slip their arm inside. Legends whispered that it was no ordinary tree. It was a prison, a graveyard for souls who had wronged the forest. The locals refused to go near it. But tonight, 5 thrill seekers stood before it, daring fate. "Come on, it's just a tree," Dylan scoffed, running his fingers over the bark. It felt strangely warm, almost like flesh. "I say we put this legend to the test." Mia shifted uncomfortably, the wind rustling through the leaves like a hushed warning. "Maybe we shouldn't." Eric smirked, scared. "No, just look at it." She gestured at the way the bark twisted unnaturally around the hollow, as if the tree had been screaming when it split apart. Lena rolled her eyes. "Guys, we came all this way. Someone has to do it." Dylan cracked his knuckles. "Fine, I'll go first." His friends cheered as he stepped forward, rolling up his sleeve. The hollow gaped before him, a black void in the wood. "Ready?" he asked, grinning. No one noticed the wind had died. No one noticed the forest had gone completely silent. He reached inside. At first, there was nothing. Then something grabbed him. Dylan's grin vanished as he screamed, a sound so raw and full of terror that it shattered the night. He tried to pull away, but his arms sank deeper. His body convulsed, his eyes wide with horror. "Dylan." Mia lunged forward, but it was too late. The tree swallowed him whole. One moment, he was there. The next, gone. His final scream echoed through the trees before fading into an unnatural stillness. Only the hollow oak remained, unmoved, unchanged, as if it had never happened. They searched for him for hours, calling his name, shining their flashlights over the endless, unyielding trees. But there was nothing, no footprints, no torn fabric. Only his voice, faint, desperate. "Help me." It came from nowhere and everywhere, riding on the wind, slipping through the branches. "Did you hear that?" Lena whispered, her face pale. "It's Dylan," Eric choked. He's still here." Mia turned back to the hollow oak, her stomach twisting. The bark, it looked different now. A new face had appeared, its eyes wide with terror, its mouth frozen in a silent scream. Dylan, trapped. His skin was now wood, his body part of the tree. The hollow oak had claimed another soul. No one spoke. No one moved. Then the wind stirred, carrying a final whisper. Run. The group didn't hesitate. They ran, never looking back. By morning, they swore never to speak of it again. But every night, when the wind howled through the trees, they heard him, begging, crying, waiting for the next fool to touch the hollow